growing up, I didn't really have images of folk like me who were doing the work that I wanted to do. Ever since I was very young, I wanted to work in popular culture. A lot of this language comes out of the academy, comes out of colleges, comes out of gender and sexual studies courses. And so it's difficult sometimes to just speak it plain because it comes out of a space that oftentimes a lot of folk of color don't have access to, right? The language piece becomes this really difficult space of struggle where people feel as if they don't want to talk about these issues at all, even though they see Black and Latina trans girls. They don't want to talk about these issues because if they say the wrong thing, specifically if you're a public figure, that then it pushes you out, and the people are just like,
that's the problem.
You're being super
so
problematic. I can't talk to you, like, and then so then what happens is that people are like, I'm not touching that.
Right, we've had that issue.
God, I had no language. I had no words. I didn't grow up in a culture or in a time period like a lot of young people are growing up now, where you saw trans people on TV. For I know a lot of girls who listen to this show and who live for this show and live for hip hop and the culture and all that stuff, that they're a part of these communities. They're a part of our communities, but then they're separated because of the trans stuff. It's hard to be something that you can't see, right? And so for me, that was always the difficult part of existing as a young person, especially like, I didn't see any Black trans women anywhere in media. You know, there may be some semblances like here and there of like white trans folk around, and there's like, it seems like there's an acceptance or an openness to talking about it. But within communities of color, I never saw anyone like me or like my sisters that are now able to do the things that we're doing in media. For me, I felt that after so many years of kind of being silent about my identities in order to survive, I felt it was necessary to, you know, kind of be very honest. To live my truth just completely blatantly and openly. And it made me uncomfortable as much as it made other people uncomfortable, but I felt it was the work that I needed to do. And me, the first thing I learned about myself, that I was poor and Black in America. The transness stuff came after.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there's still Black people living in America.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I think that there is something that there's some healing that we have to do as a community, specifically folk who have access like you all and who have a platform, is to bring folk in and have these conversations and talk about language, and then be bold enough and courageous enough to have difficult conversations about difference. And speaking across difference is something that even Black folk have to do amongst each other in order to evolve, in order to grow, and in order to ensure that we don't have a 16th Black trans woman being killed. And so I hope that what we can do is hopefully expand the possibilities for specifically Black trans girls.
I know quite a few, so it's just what you see on TV or what you see like portrayed a certain way. So it's hard for people. You talk about Chris Rock and how you felt like his jokes, it's funny, but it's a little bit offensive because he says one of the main jobs as a father is keeping your daughter off that pole. And if you haven't succeeded at that, then you failed as a father. Now, reading your description about working in the strip club, it made you see it, like, I think differently. People have this perception of women who work as strippers and what it is that they're doing and what's going on in there.
Young girls growing up to see that they don't have to only work the stroll, that they don't only have to be in strip clubs, that they don't not only have to be someone that's kind of hidden in some man's, you know, arsenal of thoughts or whatnot. And so we then strip young women of choice, or respecting their agency, to say that this is my body and I'm engaging in this space with my body to take care of myself, specifically as a low-income girl of color who doesn't have access. Your daughters will likely be fine, right? But like girls from the hood who don't have fathers, girls from the hood whose mothers are single mothers, why should we be shaming them when they're using the one resource that they have, their body, to take care of themselves in the world? And so for me, it's about releasing ourselves from the respectability politics, number one. Our generation is wrapped up in the Chris Rock bit about that. Funny as hell, really insightful, but at the same time, I think it also then shames a lot of women who felt as if the pole or the stage was their only choice to be able to take care of themselves.
And if your daughter could turn out as excellent as Janet Mock, wouldn't you say
you
that's
know,
part of the journey?
I did for a little while.
I gotta read this goddamn book. Are you listening? No.
This guy is
that whole
crazy.
part.
Yeah, I think it's a part of the hustle, right? Like it's a way to make a way when there's no way made for you.
What do you think about Caitlyn Jenner, and has she helped the transgender world?
Terrible face for y'all, by the way. I'm be
Well,
honest.
you interviewed her for the trans.
Well, I think that Black and Latino girls would say that that's not our face.
Right.
Okay.
Right? And so I think that there's also divisions within our own communities about these issues and who we say is out there speaking up front for us. You know, for me, I was a girl that grew up with the girls, and like we wouldn't say that Caitlyn was someone that represents us. I do think that what her work has done is that because the Kardashians are a global thing, and because she also as herself, when she was presenting as Bruce as an Olympian, she was an American hero to a certain generation. And so she spoke across generations, and she spoke across global lines and boundaries. And so when her story went out there, her visibility pushed people, specifically media gatekeepers, to talk about this issue. They could not ignore it anymore.
Right.
Because the Kardashians are a global phenomenon that you can't ignore. And so in that sense, I think that she has done a phenomenal job in terms of breaking through barriers and enabling us to be seen and heard. Now, her politics are a whole nother thing, but that's Caitlyn Jenner, the person, right? And so the person is problematic as fuck. And the person the person has to be checked, because you can't have, you know, trans women of color and low-income trans folk on your show and talking about their struggles without linking it to the socio-political landscape of conservatives who don't want to give social safety nets and resources to poor people, to queer and trans people, to folk of color. And so for me, there seems to be like a disconnect between how she sees herself in the world as a trans person and then how she also has lived her life for a long time as a very privileged white person. That Black folk were able to see that and be like, yes, so why are you all having Caitlyn speak for you all? And I'm like, we didn't choose her. She is a person with an experience and a platform and folk that have enabled her to be seen and heard on many various levels.
Talking about police brutality and, you know, Black Lives Matter. Black trans woman, she was like, well, we don't feel included. Black transgenders, our lives matter too. And I'm like, it's Black Lives Matter. Yeah. Like, it's all inclusive. Like, I'm not excluding the transgender.
And the folks who started Black Lives Matter are 3 Black queer women, and they're inclusive of Black trans women's
experience. I didn't know that.
Okay,
so what happened with the guy? The guy, you and the guy had sex. You told him you used to be a man, and then what?
Well, I was never a man.
Well, I'm explaining, your body can't naturally get wet as a man, right?
How you know? You should ask the question. So you have a clit too?
Oh God, this is getting
Do I have
too
to read
deep.
the book? Or what I gotta
You're talking about ancient surgeries. This stuff has changed.
Oh, tell me. So now women could get wet.
I hope
from
so.
surgery.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty tragic if you
could always
couldn't.
use lube.
I think conversation is the key to end all phobia. And what I mean by that is that people always say phobia is a fear. It's like, well, I'm not afraid of a gay person. I'm not afraid of a transgender person. But people do fear what they don't understand.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have conversations